UN warns time is running out as greenhouse gases surge.
This post received a score of 6,900, with an upvote ratio of 93%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
In one sense, time has already run out, while in another, there is always time to improve the future. The messaging for decades at this point has been, time is running out, but it doesn't seem to have motivated us to make the necessary changes to actually avoid the coming crisis. The systems we live within are so slow that the best we can hope for is a gradual, lethargic, but accelerating shift to renewable fuels and sustainable practices. Now that it is too late to avoid disaster in our lifetime, we must do everything we can to keep hope for those who will live on after us.
All these targets like, cut emissions by 30% by the year 2040, seem to do is give excuses to do very little or nothing in 2022 to 2039. Canada signed the Kyoto Protocol back in 1997, promising to cut emissions by X% by 2012. Then a new proposal with a target 15 to 20 years in the future is made and signed. For accountability, tell me what you're going to do this year to reduce emissions and by what % your emissions will go down this year as a result.
Climate change is a series of tipping points from which we can't return, or cliffs if you will. Each one will result in many hundreds of thousands of deaths. Nothing any individual does here will have an effect without government interventions to cut emissions. It will be much easier to have people adapt to changes that cut emissions than trying to organize people as individuals with a plethora of bad information and propaganda competing for their attention.
On the second point, they didn't mean literally you, they were still referring to the government. The whole statement in context is, the government shouldn't say what it's going to do in 20 years to cut emissions. It should tell us what it's going to do this year to cut emissions.
I'm tired of everyone blaming citizens as if it's not the mega corporations practically responsible. We tried recycling and they just throw what we recycle in the same garbages as everything else. It's corporatism that needs to stop, but they're making way too much money to care.
People in my area are getting fined for putting pizza boxes in recycling. So not only are the recycles going to a landfill, but the average person is getting sued for trying. Such a joke.
A lot of what goes in the recycling ends up in landfills anyways. Because only certain types of plastic are recyclable. But you're good if it's paper, cardboard, etc. But be wary of plastics.
So I have worked at an injection molding shop and I'm a materials engineering student. You can't recycle typical, recyclable plastic completely because each time you heat it up to mold it, it degrades a little. If you were to take the same plastic and recycle it and remold it in its entirety, by the third or fourth mold it would just turn to dust. I'm not even joking, the polymer chains degrade so much it basically just becomes a fine powder. We have had this issue with using regrind recycled sprue and runners contents of even just 25%, so 100% would be insane. We typically only use 10% regrind, and this is freshly molded plastic that never even leaves the factory, not even post-consumer recycled plastic.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.